Welcome back to the show. I am Jamie, and this is, of course, the Chat Up on Relax Radio. Now, Relax Radio is basically an interactive community radio, and we absolutely care about what you have to say. We absolutely care about, what you would like us to talk about, which is why we want you to be a part of the show, which is why we want you to stay connected 24/7, 365. And you could simply do that by connecting with us on our social media. Now, that's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We go as Relax Radio, and we are giving you the best of content to keep you entertained and informed at the same time, which is why I want you to make sure that you go show us some love on our social media. And we are going to be talking about a lot of different things today, from motivational aspects or motivational quotes and ideas to entertainment news, whatever it is. I'll be talking to you right here on the chat trap. Now, I want you to do something for me, okay? I want you to comment down below if you're listening to us on any of our live platforms, and I want you to tell me how your day is going. And I want you to, share your thoughts and your ideas with me. Because first of all, we are going to be talking about something that I think is very personal. It's very interactive. It's very personal from person to person, which is why I want to hear your input. I want to hear your thoughts and your perspectives. And please do go ahead and feel free to comment down below if you have anything that you want to share. Now, with that being said, I also want to remind you to download our app because it's available absolutely free of charge on iOS and Android. And now, our app, if you download it, you can go to Play Store and App Store and download our app. It's available free of charge, like I told you. But more importantly, it allows you to take us with you wherever that you go. If you're driving on your way to work, or if you are just, if you just want some good conversation, we are absolutely here for you, which is why we want you to download our app right now. With that being said, let's jump right into the conversation, which are 5 choices that I know for a fact that you are going to regret. So what I want to do is make you aware of these 5 choices so that you don't make it in life and, it leading to regret. So before that happening, I want to make you aware of these choices and remind you that these are choices that you are most definitely going to regret. And I want you to basically make sure that you don't make these choices in your life. Now, okay, listen up, okay? Our days are filled with a constant stream of decisions. Now, some of them are very mundane, they don't really mean anything, but some are so important that they can haunt you for the rest of your life. Now, I don't want to scare you or anything, but guess what? Apparently, an average human being, according to this research article that I read, an average human being makes about 70 decisions a day. Did you know that you make that many decisions in one day, which is absolutely crazy? Now, the sheer number of decisions that we have to make each day kind of leads to this phenomenon called decision fatigue, right? It's where you know that your brain is like a muscle, right? So this basically, decision fatigue actually happens when your brain gets tired with all of the decisions that you're supposed to make on a day-to-day basis. Is it like that for you? Because I, as an individual, my personal experience is that I tend to overthink quite a lot, and in the process of overthinking, I definitely undergo this brain fatigue, as they call it. Are you somebody that goes through? I would love to know. Now, okay, so if basically we are so we have so many decisions to make on a day-to-day basis, it's not easy. I completely get it. It's hard for your brain to contemplate, it's hard for your brain to keep up. But one thing that I do want to remind you is that you are not a product of your circumstances. You are a product of your decisions. Now, what do I mean by that? See, a lot of us, especially in the UK, this is something that I've heard quite a lot, right? A lot of us say, oh no, I can't succeed because I come from a really bad neighborhood. Or, oh no, I can't be a good person because my parents weren't necessarily good people. And we kind of tend to blame our situation. We tend to blame our family, our friends for the kind of people that we turn out to be. Whereas that is absolutely not true, which is what it means by you are not a product of your circumstances, you are a product of your decisions. which means that the person you are today, which means the person that you turned out to be, is not a result of the people you hang out with, or your environment, or the kind of household that you grew up in, but it's the product, or it's the consequence of the decisions that you have made. So I guess at the end of the day, some decisions are very minor. You're kind of figuring out, what do I want to have for dinner? Do I want to have some fast food, or do I want to have something healthy? Which route to drive to work, or in what order to tackle tasks? But some of the choices that we make in our day-to-day life are so much more difficult than that. If you have to choose between two job offers, if you want to move to a new city to go behind the person that you love, or whether it is to cut a toxic person out of your life, these are very hard decisions to make. Now, regardless of the magnitude of decisions, our brains make it hard for us to keep the perspective we need to make good choices. What does that mean in simple terms? Our brain doesn't really help us to make choices. That is why a lot of us are stressed when we have to choose between two things, or when we have to make a decision. Trust me when I say, if you are struggling right now with sort of, having to make so many decisions, firstly, I want to remind you that it's not just you. Even the richest person on this planet, from Bill Gates to the most successful person, has to make decisions. And it's not easy for anybody. It's not easy for anybody to make so many decisions. So, first of all, I want to remind you that if you are struggling with coming up with a conclusion, coming up with a decision for your life, I want to remind you that it's perfectly normal. We as human beings, so many decisions are thrust upon us on a day-to-day basis, and it can be really overwhelming. It can be really hard trying to make a decision or choose between certain things. So, first of all, I want to remind you that you are okay. You are going to be okay. No matter how stressed you feel right now, know that every single human being is going through that, no matter how rich or how poor they are. Now, let's get on into our actual conversation. What are the decisions that I want to remind you to not to make? Because these are the decisions that you are going to regret forever. See, firstly, I think when you make your decisions based on other people's opinion, two things can happen. Okay, two things can happen when you make your decisions or your life choices based on other people. You are going to make a poor choice in terms of your life. There are too many people out there who have studied for a degree they regret, or even spent their entire lives pursuing careers that they regret. Whether you're seeking parental approval or approval from your family, or if you're pursuing pay or prestige over passion, making poor career choices is a decision that will live with you forever. Which is why when you make a career choice, I'm not trying to overwhelm you or anything, but I want to remind you, making a proper career choice is absolutely important. And what do I mean by a proper career choice? I mean that you make a decision based on your own passion, not based on what your parents want to do, not based on, what kind of thing that is trending in society now. You need to make a decision based on what's good for you. And that's the kind of good decision that you can make. But a decision that you will regret forever and ever and ever is if you make a career choice based on other people's opinions. Now, the other choice that you are absolutely going to regret is if you fail to uphold your morals. Now, see, every single one of us have different ideals. Your idea of good is going to be very different from my idea of good. Your perspectives of life or your morals of life is going to be very different from mine. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But what's wrong is that most of us fail to uphold our personal morals and our personal, perspectives because we want to make other people like us. When you get too caught up in what your boss thinks of you, or how much money you think your spouse needs to be happy, or how bad you are going to look if you fail, you are at risk of violating your own morals. Your intense desire to kind of make yourself look good kind of compromises your ability to stay true to yourself. And the only way that you can be truly happy and you can feel good is if you uphold your own morals and if you stay true to yourself. So, a decision that you're going to regret forever is if you make a decision to fail to uphold your morals for the benefit of somebody else. So, the best way to avoid falling prey to the opinions of others is to realize that other people's opinions are just that. They're just opinions. Regardless of how great or terrible they think you are, regardless of how amazing or horrible society thinks you are, that's just their opinion. Your true self worth, like I spoke of yesterday, absolutely comes from within you. So stop seeking for approval. Stop seeking for, approval basically based on other people's opinion. The other kind of people, the other decision that you are going to regret forever is if you wish you hadn't worked so hard. See, working hard is a great way to impact the world, to learn, to grow, to feel accomplished, and sometimes even to find happiness. But it becomes a problem when you do so at the expense of the closest to you. See, ironically, we often work hard to make money for the people we care about without realizing that they value our company more than they do the money. See, the key is to find balance between doing what you love and being with the people that you love. Otherwise, you'll look back one day and wish you'd focus more on the latter. Which is why I want you to remember not to work so hard. It's amazing to have a driven attitude. It's amazing if you have that work ethic, which is pretty good. But make sure that you draw the line. Everything needs boundaries in life. Make sure that you apply a boundary to your work life as well. Now, with that being said, I have a few more choices to share with you. I have a lot more things that I do want to share with you, which is why I want to make sure that you keep it tuned right here on Relax Radio. But for now, we'll head on over to a little break, but make sure that you keep it tuned right here on Relax Radio. very good morning to you and welcome back to the show. This is, of course, the Chat Up on Relax Radio. Hope you are having yourself an amazing day so far. We've had a lot of you tuning in, and I want to say a big thank you going out to every single one of you that have been a part of the show so far. It's such a pleasure having you on board. Thank you for being a part of the show. And like always, I want to remind you to be a part of the show, which means I want you to contribute with your ideas, even if it isn't the same as mine. That's perfectly fine. Go right ahead and let me know what you are thinking because I would absolutely love to know. Now, you could always call me on 07852 or you could very simply connect with us on our social media, that is Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We go as Relax Radio, and you can check us out on any of our social media platforms and make sure that you do show us some love. Now, with that being said, I also want to remind you that if you're listening to us on any of our live platforms, make sure that you comment down below. With your thoughts and your opinions, if you're having a good day, if you want to say something to everybody that's listening in, and we would absolutely love to hear from you. So go on right ahead and feel free to use the comment section as a conversation box, to say the least, where we could interact and conversate with you. Now, with that being said, earlier on, we were talking about something very interesting. We were talking about certain choices that you make in life that you are bound to regret. And I already spoke of 3 such choices. I spoke of when you make your decisions based on what other people think, you are most definitely going to regret those decisions and choices. Now, the other thing is, if you are going to if you worked so hard all throughout your life, you are going to at the end of your life kind of regret that you only worked hard. If you're somebody that kind of only works hard and there's absolutely nothing, and you value your company and money more than you do the people around you and yourself, that is a decision that you are most definitely going to regret towards the end of your life. So make sure that you make money for the people you care about and realize that their company is more important than money. Even if it's yourself, we spend so much time working hard, earning money, but at the end of the day, when you think about it, you're not happy, because you're always so stressed. You're always doing one thing or another. You're always so busy that you don't have time for yourself and you don't have time for the people around you. And someday, believe me, you are going to regret that you worked so hard without putting on a boundary, which is why, like I said before, it's so important that everything in our life has boundaries, and work is no exception. Now, I also spoke of, actually, I do want to add 3 more things to that. 3 more choices that I know for a fact that you are going to regret. Now, if you a choice that you at least are going to regret is if you don't express your feelings. Now, see, we're taught as children that emotions are dangerous and that they must be bottled up and controlled, which is true up to a certain extent, right? If you're angry, that emotion can be dangerous. But trust me when I tell you, a choice that you are most definitely going to regret is if you don't express your feelings. Now, usually, you can keep your feelings hidden inside of you. You can keep your emotions bottled up, and that's going to be okay for a little while, but it is going to cause them to grow, and your emotions and bottled up feelings are going to erupt. Now, the best thing you can do is to put your feelings directly on the table. I know it's painful to initiate. It forces you to be honest and transparent, and that can be really scary sometimes. Now, for example, okay, let me give you an example. Okay, so if you feel as though you aren't working or you aren't earning enough money at work, I want you to schedule a meeting with your boss and propose why you think you're worth more. See, as a result, they will either agree to give you a raise or disagree with you and tell you what you need to do to become more valuable. On the other hand, if you do nothing and let your feelings fester, it's going to hinder your performance and prevent you from kind of reaching your goal. The same goes to, I feel like, especially with the modern day society, with the millennials and the Gen Zs, so one thing that we quite often do is ignore our feelings towards other people. If we do have a certain, if we, if you develop feelings rather for somebody else, we kind of are too afraid to showcase it to other people, and we keep it inside of us, and then one day you're going to wake up and regret it so much. Which is why I want you to express your feelings, because if you don't, that is a decision, or that is a choice that you are most definitely going to regret. Now, with that being said, I also want to remind you that um, there is such a huge necessity when you're being so transparent with your feelings to portray your feelings properly. That's something that you need to learn as well. Make sure that you express your feelings, but not in a way that's going to hurt somebody else. Consider other people's feelings, but that doesn't mean that you bottle your feelings up as well. So that is yet another choice that you are going to regret. That is if you don't express your feelings and if you don't tell people how you feel. Now, the other thing, I feel like a life choice that I've heard a lot of elderly people regret is the fact that they didn't stay in touch with their friends. Now, see, when you get caught up, especially if you're after college, if you're after high school, it's very easy to just lose touch with your friends. But let me tell you right now and right here, that is most definitely a choice you're going to regret. See, when you get caught up in your weekly routine, it's kind of easy to lose sight of how important people are to you, especially those you have to make time for. This can be friends or family or relatives or your loved ones. See, relationships with your family and old friends are among the first things to fall off the table when you're busy. See, this is very unfortunate because a time spending with friends or your family can be a major stress buster, especially with regards to close friends. Close friends can bring you energy and fresh perspectives and a sense of belonging that a lot of us are lacking in today's day and age. So I want to remind you to, if you want to not regret your life, if you don't want to regret your life choices, make sure that you stay in touch with your friends, with your closest friends. First of all, find close friends and stay in touch with your closest friends and your family, and stay in touch with the people that do care about you. Now, the other thing, the final thing that I do want to talk about, a decision that you are obviously going to regret, is if you don't let yourself be happy. Now, what does that mean? See, when your life is about to end, all the difficulties you've faced suddenly becomes trivial compared to the good times. I'll say that again. When you are towards the end of your life, all of these difficulties, all of these tough decisions that you had to make rather, is going to seem extremely trivial. And the only thing that's going to matter are the good times that you've had in your life. This is because you realize that more often than not, suffering is a choice. Okay? Unfortunately, most people realize this far too late in their life. Although we are inevitably experience pain, all of us experience pain. How we react to pain is completely under our control. Similarly, you are the only person that is able to allow yourself to experience joy. You have the ability to experience joy, but you need to allow yourself to feel or experience joy. Learning to laugh and to smile and to be happy, especially when you're stressed out, could be really challenging. But it's definitely one that's worth every ounce of the effort. So those are a few choices that you are most definitely going to regret if you don't make in your life. So remember those and make sure that you live a life that's pleasing, that is in accordance with your own rules. Like I always say, society has set certain boundaries for us. Society has set certain rules for us. Break the rules, follow your own rules, follow your heart, follow your passion, and just do what makes you happy. With that being said, we're about to head on over to a little break, but make sure that you keep it tuned right here on Relax Radio. Welcome back to the show. I am Jamie, and this is, of course, the Chat Trap. I want to say a big thank you going out to every single one of you that have been tuned in for so far. It is such a pleasure to have you on board. Thank you for being a part of the show, and thank you for being a part of the Relax family. Now, we have a lot of very interesting things happening here at Relax Radio, and if you want to be a part of it, all you got to do is go check out our social media. That is Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We go as Relax Radio, and we share with you a lot of different things. So make sure that you keep it tuned right here on Relax Radio. Now, with that being said, today is something very, very special. This month actually is a very special. If you don't know what it is, well, then this month is essentially Pride Month. And Pride Month is basically dedicated to the LGBTQIA plus community. And there is a lot, I feel like, that we don't know about the history of the LGBTQIA community. You know, if you think that we live in an open-minded, positive society now, just wait until you hear what may have been going on down the, I don't know, the Yorkshire mines in the 1950s. And I feel like there's a lot of LGBTQ history that most of us don't know. Okay, most of us don't know this because either we weren't taught in school, and mostly because a lot of this is considered to be taboo, and a lot of this actually happened in secret. Now, I want to let you know that at the end of the day, it's all about. It's all about accepting people for who they are. It's all about accepting that different people are different, and that's just how it is. Now, with regards to the LGBTQIA community, I want to remind you that at the end of the day, they're not different to anybody else on the planet. It's all about accepting them. And see, at the end of the day, what we need to remember is even if you have a different opinion, or even if you have a different stance on sexuality as a whole, it doesn't matter, because that you need to apply that opinion and stance only on yourself. Right? Don't let that inhibit you from loving other people and accepting other people, because they choose to be whoever they wanted to be. So it's okay to have your own stance on sexuality. Just make sure that you don't project it or thrust that stance upon somebody else, and you don't judge somebody else based on your personal stance, because your personal stance only applicable to you as a person. So don't judge other people based on your perspectives and based on your opinions, because like we spoke of earlier, opinions are just opinions at the end of the day. And we live in the 21st century. Love is love, and people just need to be comfortable with who they truly are, and people need to be able to accept who they are. And yeah, even if you are not a part of the LGBTQ community, why it's important that you celebrate, and why it's important that you stand in solidarity with the community, is because they have been the community as a whole has been going through so much neglect, has been going through so much violation of their human rights, just because they choose to be who they are. Which is why we, as even if you don't identify as a part of the LGBTQ community, it's so important that you stand in solidarity with your brothers and sisters, or with our brothers and sisters that identify as a part of the LGBTQ community. Now, with that being said, let's go on to a little history of the LGBT history, actually, that many of us don't know about. Now, even in the 19th century, it was very difficult to talk about gender identity, or your sexual identity. It didn't really exist, and there wasn't really any such thing. So people, even if they knew that they were different from everybody else, or even if they knew that they don't stick to the norm, they really had nothing to do about it, because it was so taboo back in the 19th century. Now, of course, everyone was still at it. The existence there were how do I put this? Apparently, according to certain scholarly articles, there were groups and meetings where people who had these were thought to be different, which is again very up to perspective. But in the 19th century, people who had different sexual identities were thought to be different. Now, these people had their own communities. They would get together, and they would meet at places and have meetings and discuss feelings and so on. Now, at the end of the day, I believe that people have always challenged the gender norms and sexual norms. The idea that you can organize the world around the kind of desires that you have, I think, though, is a very recent idea. Now, there is see, I feel like a lot of LGBT history took place behind the closed doors, and according to a lot of data scientists and professors, there's a lot that could make its way into mainstream education. And I read this article, and his name is Justin Bengry, and he's a lecturer in queer history in the Goldsmiths University of London. Now, Justin Bengry says it's important to present LGBT history as being a part of the ordinary fabric of modern and not so modern life. And that is Professor Lecturer Justin Bengry's opinion, which I completely agree with. Now, you could not agree with this, but that exactly is what is mentioned in society. Now, see, apparently, in 1954, there was a homosexual magazine that was strictly an under-the-counter affair, but it was how people related with each other, and they did feel isolated, especially if they, identified themselves to be different or challenged in gender norms. Now, this publication hid in plain sight, apparently on the shelves of UK news agents in the 1950s, right? So if you go through it, for a lot of people, it will tweak your history as you know it, because in the 1950s issues, it was a lot about connecting with people who had different sexual identities, and allowing people like that to know that there are other people out there. Even though it was such a taboo thing, there are other people out there who were similar to them. Now, there were also okay, so in 1885, apparently, gross indecency, and I quote, gross indecency between two men was made illegal. And in 1921, a similar law was discussed for women as well. Now, this didn't go very far in the House of Lords, partly because they didn't want to discuss the matter because it was so taboo, and partly because they believed women were so impressionable that if they heard about women being with other women, that they might want to try it for themselves. So it was this whole let's just put it under the rug and pretend it doesn't exist. It's not even important enough to make a law about it, and that's the kind of mentality that was there in in 1885, actually, which is not too long ago if you actually think about it, And yeah, that exactly is what happened in London in the 1885 era. Now, apart from that, there was this whole Yorkshire incident, which I know everybody is talking about. And according to this Dr. Helen Smith at Lincoln University, he was talking about a study which discovered that working class men in Yorkshire during the 1950s were arrested and were put under appeal, or in the House of Lords for for enjoying homosexual bliss. And that, again, I reiterated from the actual documents that was there. And that just goes to show that people were so discriminated, especially in the UK. Looking at all of this, we see that people were so discriminated because they kind of accepted their gender identity and their sexuality, which is kind of sad. But that just goes to show that it's so important that we stand in solidarity with this community. Even if you're not part of it, it's so important that you do acknowledge that they've been through a lot to get basic human rights, to be able to do what you and I can do with a peace of mind, which is absolutely horrible. But I'm glad that even in the 21st century, we are so much more open about this. We're so much more fluid and accepting of people. And yeah, I think it's definitely something that we need to teach our next generations, so that history doesn't definitely repeat itself. And we need to start teaching people that we need to respect other people for the fact that they are people, and not for their ideals or their principles or their sexuality or gender or race or whatever it is. I think that's super important that we teach our younger generations, and we teach each other as well, because we live in the 21st century and it's all about loving people for just being people, and that I think is the message that I wanted to convey to you today. If you have anything that you want to share, I would absolutely love to hear from you. All you gotta do is comment down below if you're listening to us on any of our social media platforms, and if you are listening to us on our app, all you gotta do is call us up on 078 078 52473 With that being said, let's head on over to a little break, but make sure that you keep it tuned and right here on Relax Radio.